Grab your beverages and turn up your interweb. Solving the world's problems 12 ounces at a time. It's Dudes and Beer.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to episode 181 of the Dudes and Beer podcast.
Yeah.
Last week was 180, and it was really wild being in Vegas doing the show about the corruption of the Vegas Sheriff's Department and the amazing documentary Vegas Wrong by Ramsey Dennison. Go out and check that out. It's absolutely mind-numbing, some of the things going on with that case.
I think I referred that to you.
The fact that they have actively shut down the case and closed it with no motive found, all kinds of things. Go out and check that out. Right now, it is actually time for the news of the week. We have had some really, really wild stories that we posted this week. Out of Fox News, woolly mammoths will soon roam a new Jurassic-style park theme park.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be real.
With cave lions and extinct horses within 10 years. That's what Russian scientists are saying.
I believe it.
One of my favorites, also out of Fox News, was an Inside Edition crew gets robbed while reporting on robberies in the San Francisco area crime wave. I like that one. They're out like talking to people about getting robbed and getting held up.
Ironic.
Classy.
Yes.
Yeah. Way to go,
Nice.
San Francisco. Edward Snowden is out talking about protecting activists against active surveillance.
That's a good one.
Of course, the new Captain Marvel trailer is out. Today is Cheeseburger Day, apparently, so go out and check your local vendors. South Africa has officially legalized cannabis use. That is out of the BBC. Apparently, a woman in Georgia has 30 brown recluse spiders inside her house.
It's time to freaking sell out and move.
On other cannabis front news, out of Fox 7 Austin, Coke is in talks to make a cannabis-infused drink.
CBD, yeah. I've read that.
And, of course, some of the news that we're going to be talking about with our good friend Kenneth Dudley tonight is, of course, the New Mexico Observatory that finally gave an explanation for its shutdown. In addition to that, new videos out of the Pentagon regarding their UFO program, things like that, as well
Space
as
Force.
The upcoming Space Force in 2020.
Ooh.
And
Exciting.
And of course there was a new announcement out of Laredo that a teacher put up a few photos that he was purging from his computer and found them and was like, oh wow, look at these. So it's interesting. We're gonna talk about the culture of UFO investigation, what it's all about, with Kenneth Dudley right now. How are you doing, Kenneth?
I'm doing great, and it's glad to see you guys again, or hear you guys again.
Yeah.
I think we talked on Facebook earlier today.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's a great place to contact people and stay in contact with people around the world.
It really is. It really is. You know, when used for the right and good purpose of that, it is a great means by which to stay in touch, to keep your finger on the pulse of things as far as groups, trending, things like that. And I have noticed here lately a huge trend in articles about extraterrestrials, UFOs, things like that. There was even the discovery by an artificial intelligence computer of almost hundreds of new, as far as they can tell, alien light signals that are pulsing in sequence and giving all kinds of messages that are currently being decoded. Mm-hmm. So I was like, Kenneth, we have to have you on to talk about, number one, updates like this in the news. Because, I mean, the observatory shutdown was really, it was mysterious when it happened. And I remember you saying on our messages back and forth that many people had contacted you about it. You didn't know a whole lot about it, Kenneth. I did a little
Yeah,
bit
that's pretty much right.
Yeah,
that's pretty much it. Seems to be a lot of interest in that. I've had a lot of people contact me on Facebook about it. Some even sent me some pictures that they said were some pictures that they had taken something that they didn't want people to see or whatever. But, NASA if there's something they don't want people to see, they can just change the pictures. All they need to do.
Oh yeah.
There's a department that does that.
There is,
and they've got people that keep an eye on all that kind of stuff. If there's something that comes in out of nowhere or something like that. What I wanted to bring up today was we've got Yom Kippur today. I believe it starts.
Yes.
And back in October 1973, when I had my sighting at the Utah Launch Complex, that's what was going on at that time period, was Yom Kippur. And they had a Middle East war in October of 1973 during that time period. And that's when the UFO that I came in contact with was up at the Utah Launch Complex, was during that Middle East war. And pretty much after doing some research and investigation and contacting MUFON, different people, military people, there seems to be some sort of interaction between the military and our nuke bases, where we go to elevated nuclear status, like DEFCON 2 during the Cuban Missile Crisis, or DEFCON 3 when the Middle East War was going on in October 1973, and we elevated our launch status. So apparently they know somehow when we start to elevate our nuclear system toward launch, and that's when they start interacting with all our nuclear bases, whether it's the Cuban Missile Crisis or the Middle East War in October 1973, or any other
or the nuclear bases later,
like World War II, something like that.
And I mean, there was even the famous case where the missile base was completely shut down.
Was it Maelstrom or something like that?
Yeah, where everything was.
Yeah, that
all
was
the
in
missiles were taken
67.
offline. Yeah.
Yeah, that was in 67. Robert Salas was the guy that was in the missile silo.
It's
I questioned him about it because of we had the same event, but at different missile bases.
Yeah. And even going into that, the fact that these things seem to occur around these bases.
Sure do.
Sightings seem to occur in areas at least somewhat near nuclear facilities,
right.
be they peaceful nuclear power plants, what have you. And it seems as though sightings definitely increased after the cracking of the atom, after the discovery of the uses of uranium-232.
It got somebody's attention.
It definitely, I think, rang the bell.
Right.
If anything, of hey, we have stepped into, or possibly even stepped back into, a realm of science, and it's time to turn some eyes.
Now we're the
direction.
Destroyer of worlds or whatever. Right?
Well, and just to go around the table, I know who here does not believe in aliens in this conversation anyway. I firmly do.
Yeah.
I firmly believe in the existence of something other than ourselves.
There's too much info out there to not say that you don't.
Well, I mean, especially with UFOs. Now, granted, UFO by definition in and of itself, does that mean alien life? No. That could be somebody traveling in an experimental aircraft. It could be one of many things. So that doesn't necessarily necessitate alien life.
Interdimensional beings.
Possibly. I would think, if anything, rather than interdimensional beings, more than likely
time
the
traveler.
fact that it's time travelers, that it's us.
Yeah.
Coming from fragmented futures or pasts and catching glimpses of things.
Wow.
Now,
amazing.
Where has some of your research taken you as far as that is concerned, Kenneth?
I look at it that there's not just one race, but that there's probably many races, and some of them are probably have been here on Earth for a long, long time, and some are probably travelers, space travelers, to to me, Earth is a way station in space.
Yeah.
And anybody going from point A to point B and just happen to be passing by might just stop off.
We're a
and
great
also,
repository
I
of
think
fuel.
interdimensional is definitely a possibility in the way I look at it. And I think Oppenheimer, when he was talking about the atom bomb and the first testing of the atom bomb, quoted the Hindu scripture.
Yep.
And said that we have now become man has now become the destroyer of worlds.
Yeah, we've now
Those
become
worlds
Shiva.
could be an interdimensional world, something that we can't see, but is there. And maybe they have the ability to come from their world to our world and back. We don't have that ability.
Yeah.
But if we were going to be destroying our world with a nuclear war, we could be destroying their world, and that could be the reason why all of a sudden, since the nuclear age, we've had this big interaction between these UFOs and our nuclear missile testing facilities, missile bases, power plants, weapons storage areas,
and even experimental areas like CERN, things like that, who are obligingly saying that they are messing with forces that could very well open a portal to another dimension, all kinds of things. And perfectly well, the idea is to cause miniature Big Bangs and see what the beginning of the universe was like, on a small miniature scale. However, if you go Ghostbusters and cross the streams, let's say, things go awry, who's to say that you don't create a cross rip of dimension?
Where's the fire extinguisher for that?
I'm not discounting the possibility of interdimensional. I'm just saying that probably out of everything, I would say it might be the least possible. I would go with numerous races of aliens to begin with.
Right.
I lean toward all of them. I think there has been people or beings here that have flown things before humans.
Oh, absolutely.
Ever, started going across. To find a new world in a sailboat or something.
Carve things into the earth. They don't carve things into pottery. They don't make golden idols out of them for no good reason.
Right.
They just don't. Even ancient people had better things to do, like actively finding water and living every single day.
Yeah. Finding your next meal.
Yeah.
That's a whole day adventure there.
And we actually had somebody, whenever we were posting around earlier and promoting the show on groups and stuff, had somebody ring in. How do you actively investigate UFOs? And I got smarmy question, but at the same time, fairly valid. A lot of people don't understand like how you can go about investigating paranormal experiences, things like that. So,
well, I question people is what I do.
Yeah.
I'm not one of these people that somebody calls up like MUFON and said, there's a flying saucer out here, just landed. Would you come out and, take a reading, a radiation reading, or to get a video or whatever? I interact with government people, and that's where my investigation lies, is the who's who in the UFO world, as well as government agencies and people, and how they respond when they're questioned about the UFO issue. And so mine is more of a questioning of governmental officials, military, police officers, stuff like that. And then when I take what they tell me and I kind of analyze it and try to connect the dots, fill in the puzzle, trying to answer the questions. Because on this need to know thing, what you'll do is you'll talk to one person and he'll say, well, I only knew this because I was a need to know. They only allowed me to know this one specific thing. But once you talk to different people, you start getting little pieces of information and you start connecting dots. and you have to look at the big picture, and you got to think outside the box on all these issues. But no, I questioned the FBI at FBI headquarters here in Houston 3 times over this issue, and they've been very supportive, very understanding. I've had people for the last 10 years tell me that the FBI does not take UFO reports, is not interested in UFOs. But to me, that's not true, because they took my report and they allowed me to come in there 3 times and talk to them about it. Yeah. And they wrote down everything I said for 2 hours on one of our meetings. So, and they basically what they told me was, here in Houston, and we have a pretty big FBI headquarters here in Houston. But anyway, they don't have the expertise to handle it here. They don't have the finances, the money to do any of that type of stuff here. And their focus, I think, in Houston is mainly cyber. Cyber FBI stuff is real big here in Houston. Yeah. And but as far as the UFO stuff, they referred me to Washington FBI. They basically said that any UFO stuff that's done is done out of Washington FBI. It's not done out of Houston or Dallas or Austin or any of these places like that.
And that's one of the things I find interesting is that when you do actively go through these channels, they have no problem bumping you up the ladder.
Yeah.
They got no problem going like, hey, we can help you out, but contact this office.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's just like when I went in to talk to Homeland Security down here in Texas City, in Galveston County. They'd come on Channel 2 and had requested anybody that might have any information about these UFO reports down over Moses Lake, which is south of Houston here. Please contact the Texas City Police Station, because the Texas City police officers, as well as hundreds of residents, were calling the police station saying they were seeing these UFOs. So when I went, I got my car and drove down to the Texas City Police Station and went in there and introduced myself and asked to talk to the Homeland Security guy there. And I went back in his office, and he said, "What do you have any information about these UFOs over here in Moses Lake?" And I said, "No, I really don't, but I do know how you can make an official report on a UFO to Bigelow Aerospace, which is a big NASA contractor."
Yep.
And then he got all upset with me and said, "I don't report to NASA or any NASA contractors. I report to Homeland Security over any UFO issues." So, I mean, when you're sitting there and you got Homeland Security saying, "Yeah, I'm worried about the UFOs," and "Yeah, I report to Washington about the UFOs," and you got the FBI saying, "Yeah, there's something with that, and we'll refer you to Washington FBI," and then you go and you track down NASA counterintelligence out of the Office of Legislative Affairs at Johnson Space Center, and you make a report to them, and they review your report, forward it on to some of the heads of NASA. I mean, all they're doing is confirming every single thing that you thought was going on. Yeah. That the government is concerned about it. The government does know about it. The people are reporting to the government about it, and that there is government interest in this. Well, and so it's not some way out crazy thing. The government is interested in it. Okay?
Well, and that's something that I'd like to touch on real quick and kind of branch off on is the government believing in it, because for years they have said that they dropped all investigations since the days of Project Blue Book, all that kind of stuff, that they did not have military funding for any UFO research, for anything like that. And then lo and behold, this last December, we started reporting on it shortly before that, where the CIA put out a file dump of cases that they were like, these are real X-Files. These are things that we and our scientists we're unable to solve. These are still, as of yet, in the unsolved realm. And then shortly afterward, a few months later, came the announcement from the Pentagon that we have spent tens of billions of dollars actively following UFOs. There is cockpit footage, all kinds of things, not only over our skies, but over foreign skies as well. And it's one of those like, hey, wait a minute. We've been told for like the last 20, 30 years now that there is no active research going on by the U.S. military. And all of this kind of compounded when the announcement of an official Space Force came about this last spring, which, of course, like we said before the show, has really been in the works for years. But let's kind of springboard off with the concept of the government knowing about things and the slow and steady process of not just desensitization, but disinformation coming out as a means of disclosure.
Yeah, well, a lot of it is black projects, and a lot of it is, platforms, weapon systems, technology. It has to do with the corporations. It has to do with power, control, and money. And, people like Bigelow Aerospace, who is a big government contractor, NASA, that is developing space habitat for people to live in space. He's a billionaire hotel guy from Vegas, trying to be the next Howard Hughes, but he's been studying UFOs and stuff like that for 40, 50 years, and he's worked with Colonel John Alexander, ex-Green Beret Special Forces, a big UFO guy, government guy, who actually set Bigelow Aerospace up with the government contract from the FAA to take UFO reports from the airline pilots, supervisors, and all those type of people.
Skinwalker
Of course,
Ranch.
now they've changed that. Bigelow was starting to get too many people asking too many questions, and so they had to update the FAA document to take Bigelow Aerospace out of it, and now it just says contact the National UFO Reporting Center. So, that's what the government is directing everyone to now, because Bigelow was getting, I think he was on 60 Minutes there last year, saying that aliens are living right underneath our nose. No one even knows it.
It's interesting, Kenneth. Whenever I first contacted you, an unnamed source who I was connected with and contacted was like, listen, I just don't do public appearances anymore. I used to do them all the time. I used to be on Coast to Coast. I used to do this and that, and I just don't. There have been too many accidental deaths of NASA scientists.
That's right.
Too many scientists discredited over the last many years. Too many UFO investigators, like the young man in Eastern Europe that they found with like black ooze. It was a straight up X-File episode. Right. Like black ooze coming out of orifices of his body. And he was like, it's not worth the safety of my family or my friends or even myself.
I hear you, and I brought that issue up with the FBI on my first trip up to Houston headquarters, and when we finally, I kind of pissed off the FBI, so they ended the meeting. But one of the last things I got in was, now there's not going to be any guys in black suits or anything show up at my house,
right,
wanting to ask me weird questions or anything. And the FBI guy said, no one's going to show up at your house. If they do, just come back and let us know. So no problems here. And if I would have any problems, I'd report them to the FBI in Houston in about 30 minutes it would take me to get up to FBI headquarters. So I'm not really too concerned about it at this point.
Well, and, to me, it's the question of what do we know that the government actually knows? And now a lot came about. A lot has been revealed, even recently, like the videos that you shared to my page that I then shared to the Dudes and Beer group that came out recently.
What about the O'Hara news report?
Yeah,
done by the Chicago news station up there about what happened that day up there.
Yeah, about the O'Hara Airport. That was a huge mass sighting, absolutely incredibly huge mass sighting. Even the one.
See, I went up there. I went up to the UFO. They had a big UFO thing up there, and I actually went to it up there in Chicago, and I actually met some of the people that were working for United at the UFO conference because they were there. They wanted to know what was going on. And they're friends of mine on Facebook, and they work for United, and they were there that day. And so I got to question people that were on the ground that actually worked for United that were there that day. And it's just one more deal like the FAA. I mean, the newsman on the TV said, "Where's the FAA and the investigation?" Well, the FAA is not going to come on TV and say we're doing a UFO investigation because one almost landed at O'Hara.
At one of the busiest airports
above
in
Gate 38 for 30 minutes, and we have literally thousands of people that saw it. Yeah. Including airline pilots, air traffic
and there was
controllers.
Nothing that we could do about it.
So how do you say,
And these things happen, I mean, I have friends that have flown. I have friends that have worked military contract, things like that. They choose to remain in silence for many, many years until their signed oaths are finished. At that point, they'll willingly come on and talk about things, but until the day that those sworn secrecy and non-disclosures are done, they will say nothing. They're like, I can tell you over a beer at a party all day long. I can't go on anywhere and say anything. I can't say anything in any kind of like I was there capacity. But I know people that are FAA pilots that they will not share their stories outside of, maybe a beer at a bar, because it risks their entire career.
We had a Southwest pilot down here in Houston at this Houston MUFON get-together out here where cash-landrum event happened back in 1980. I got to talk to him. He was a Hispanic guy, real nice airline pilot for Southwest. And he just happened to show up and wanted to know, what was going on and everything. And I whipped out one of those Section 8 FAA documents, how to make a UFO report, and I gave him one.
Yeah.
He's going to take it back and question his boss about it.
Yeah.
Because he was in an airplane, and they saw the air traffic controller warned them there was a UFO real close by, and they saw the UFO and kind of freaked them all out and everything. And so he was at the meeting, the Houston MUFON meeting, and was one of the people that the English television crew interviewed.
Wow.
There.
Wow.
What about a while back? Hey, Dudley, do you remember, Kenneth, do you remember that just recently, it was a while back, that on CNN where the former Pentagon intelligence, he was a UFO program chief program in a UFO intelligence, and he came on CNN. Remember? Did you see that footage? And
I don't know if I saw that footage or not, but there are just a ton of people.
Oh yeah.
There's you can.
Everyone from Paul Hellyer, former Canadian Minister of Defense, saying
you can just Google and YouTube it, man.
That there are
and you can get hundreds of government
And the
people.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, Paul Hellyer states precisely that the U.S. government has arrangements with no less than 5 alien races.
Right. This guy
swears to that.
Chief program or whatever of UFO stuff. It said, former Pentagon intelligence, and he was on CNN, and he even admitted it. And they were showing footage while he was, having his.
Well, that was the one this last Christmas where they revealed. Yeah, that's the article that we were just talking about.
Yeah, that guy was an Air Force officer. That came on
and
TV
the pilots came on and talked about their experiences and everything else. It was a full-on press conference, and much like that. The one thing that didn't get a lot of play, either the first time it happened or this last time, was the X-37B. People think that this idea of a space force is something new, and it's not. If it was, then we would not already have experimental planes that are unmanned, flown by the U.S. Air Force with USAF on their tail wing, that look like miniature space shuttles, and just completed a mission a year long, unmanned, orbiting the Earth. And this is the second mission or third mission like that it's completed. Before that, it's done, I think it was 90 days, and then it was almost a year. It was into like the 9-month range.
Yeah, there's supposed to be, I think Ellington Airfield down here where I'm from is supposed to be, in the future, one of their big bases right here in Ellington, where NASA flies out of, and it's one of the Air Force National Guard flies out of here.
Yep, it's one of the. I used to go to air shows all the time out at Ellington whenever I lived in Houston, and I love that base. It's great, but there are some wild sightings. It seems just in the Texas area. Even talking about the Cash-Landrum case and the MUFON event that just happened regarding that. That was one of the cases that got me interested when I was a kid and heard that story. My family is from the Channelview Crosby area. I spent time in Kennefic as a kid, and it was right down the rural road. I was a kid in Huffman just a couple years before it happened. It's just one of those, it hit home. Whenever it hit the news, whenever it happened. And it was one of the first big cases with great loss of time, where the two people experienced a good lapse in time.
That's when you know what sums up.
What were some of the new revelations with the Cash-Landrum case?
It was just, I don't know if I wouldn't call it new, but, they suffered greatly because they had some sort of radiation poisoning from getting too close to the ship, or the ship getting too close to them, whatever. And they suffered greatly, and I think both the women ended up passing away from it eventually.
That's the one that I heard where the women passed away. Yeah. And they didn't help them.
And what was really sad about it is you can watch those videos where they're testifying on YouTube and stuff. The ladies are testifying, and you can just feel the terror and the anger and the frustration and with just everybody and everything, and no one came to their aid, and no one helped them, and no one cared, and it was just a sad story is what it really was.
Well, they were treated like a couple of crazy people, and it's interesting to me.
Yeah, they treated them like they were crazy, and they suffered severe radiation burns and poisoning, and they didn't do it to themselves. So it was either some sort of top secret government deal, or it was an alien ship. One of the two. It had to be one or the other. Okay.
It was incredible, the things that they went through, and the story afterward, the persecution that they went through locally, everything else.
Make them seem like they're crazy.
That's something that, to me, especially whenever you look at cases like that, whenever you look at cases like of course, his name.
The Cash-Landrum case.
The Cash-Landrum case, as well as the case out of Arizona. where he actually spent time aboard craft. I'm presently working on
Travis Walton?
Travis Walton, exactly. Thank you.
Travis Walton.
It's
Travis
one of those.
Walton.
These people have nothing to gain by the story.
No, nothing at all.
I don't really think, and we talked about it with the head of Cryptomundo.
You have
and the
like
head
at
of the
least
Texas
5 of his
Bigfoot
friends
Research.
that have the same story.
Well, and not just that, it's the fact of they have nothing to gain.
Right, yeah, nothing. If anything, by them coming forward, it makes them look crazy. Can you imagine? Back in the 70s, dude.
Well, not even
coming
then.
out like
even
UFO,
now. Like I consider anybody that comes out and shares their story of something
even
like
today
this,
is
one of the bravest people out there.
Yeah.
I'm currently working on getting there is a lady running for Florida State Senate that has a story of abduction and swears by it. I'm working on getting
I heard about that.
And it's
I
one
don't
of those,
know what her story is, but yeah, I heard it.
It's one of those you don't stick by it for no reason, It's going to get
kind of
out
like
there.
my deal. It's kind of like my deal. I've been telling people about this since 1973, okay?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So,
and
here we are 60, 50 years later, whatever it is, man. And I'm still telling people about it because it was the wildest, craziest, scariest thing that's ever happened to me.
Yeah.
And it changes you forever as far as how you perceive the world and what you think is going on in the world.
Well, it definitely changes the concept of truth with a capital T.
Well, I tell you what, I cried for hours over it, and I was angry and screamed for hours over it, But you end up kind of mellowing with it, and you kind of go with the flow. But yeah, it's very upsetting if you really truly believe that our government would cover up people being injured or killed or kidnapped or some top secret thing that ended up killing people. But that our government's done that since the beginning of time, really.
Sure,
right,
sure. I mean, we've done all kinds of horrifying things, and that's.
I mean, we brought the Nazis over here at the end of World War II because we were in a nuclear race against the Russians to develop the nuclear bomb, and
hell, the whole eugenics concept started here in the United States.
I mean, they killed thousands of people, and they were involved in killing thousands and thousands of people, but yet we treated them like they were like almost our best friends, heroes,
scientific
or something.
Heroes.
And I understand that they changed and they helped us and all this, but we overlook a lot of stuff.
We did. We overlooked a lot of stuff. And granted, there were many of them that suffered in silence, did what they had to do in order to live, in order to survive. As far as the scientists went,
like Bernard von Braun or whatever.
there were numerous that went right along with things. And with that in mind, I want to kind of branch off into the conversation of contact because you having your experience, would you consider how did you feel with your experience? Did you feel any kind of threat? Was it more a sense of wonder and awe?
No, it was I felt the same way the deer did that jumped out in front of me right before I saw. And
what the hell
was
is
just
that thing?
Instant fear is what was overwhelming.
Instant,
and it was overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I couldn't move. I was so scared I couldn't even move.
Interesting.
But so fear, I didn't feel any really positive vibes. Or anything. You know what I mean? So I go with my gut feeling, okay? And I kind of feel like the deer. There was something there. The deer picked up on it. They were leaving the scene, and I was scared to death, and I couldn't leave the scene.
So with that in mind, how do you feel about the concept of initial contact and purposeful contact? Like right now, the article out of space.com that I was referencing earlier, where the AI computer just found more mysterious light flashes, things that are not stars coming from deep space, and into the dozens and dozens, almost hundreds of signals to be analyzed and to be verified.
Well, I still think
checked.
humans. I think still think humans are the most dangerous thing on the planet.
Oh, sure.
And we can kill everything on the planet, and we may be the biggest problem on the planet. But no, I would be very careful with contact, and I just
What?
You always just got to be careful no matter what you're
They
doing.
most definitely have the upper hand.
And I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'm working on designs for a decent, astronomical powered laser, just under burning wattage, that you can use to point out stars and stuff. But I'm working on a binary system to
Go
be
all
able
the
to
way. Go
to
for
be
the
able to
burning part,
signal.
man.
No, I don't want to burn anything. I don't. At least not on air.
Hey, well, I've got a laser video I need to post on your wall and get your opinion of if you think this is a real live laser video.
Well, and that's just it. People get all kinds of interesting results with things flashing back. I use the quote a lot from Easy Rider. Oh, that was a UFO beaming back at you. I've had a lot of people tell me that UFOs wink at them. Sure.
Wink at them. In other words, you could be in a car, you could see a UFO, you could flash your lights at them, and they would flash back. Now, I've heard that from several different people.
Yeah, and that's
at several different times. But like I said, to me is I have no fear of aliens at this point. It's very rare to see a UFO, especially at close range. Even though I was very scared, I think it was kind of like hitting the lottery. It just, you were at the right place or wrong place at that time.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. So I wouldn't be, if I was some regular person, I wouldn't be concerned about it. I would just want to try to find out more about it and make my own opinion up on what I think is going on, and just stay calm and, think outside the box and analyze whatever information you can assemble.
I think that's the most important thing, and that's something that people have to realize with investigation of anything, is that you have to analyze information.
Yeah.
You've got to, whether you believe the story or not,
right,
you have to use it as anecdotal information to prove the case. And we were talking about that with Craig Woolheater regarding Bigfoot, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of empirical evidence would it actively take to say UFOs are extraterrestrial, are not and granted, you look at spikes in some UFO activity and the types of UFOs seen. Some of that definitely corresponds with when experimental aircraft were flying over our skies.
Right, yeah.
When we were testing the F-117, the B-2 bomber.
Yeah,
that kind of thing. However,
I really believe in this reversing this alien technology. I think.
Most definitely.
I think it's been done. I think we've gone from horse and buggy. We've gone from horse and buggy to the stars.
We went
100 years.
We went from Apollo 11 and beyond, having. And I was just at the National Air and Space Museum. I saw the control consoles. Man, that's a bunch of vacuum tubes and switches.
Yeah.
And it makes you
wonder how
on your cell phone than NASA had to launch everything.
Yeah, seriously,
it's incredible.
And so maybe there's an alien race helping us.
Exactly.
Well,
okay,
right.
Maybe there's an alien race helping us.
So they're communicating with the elites, but not to the public.
Interesting things that was just released by Defense One. I posted it on the Dudes and Beer Facebook group. Please go join the Dudes and Beer Facebook group, everybody. You can see all these articles. They're absolutely like actual news. It's crazy sauce. But Defense One, they're basically the news arm of the Pentagon, came out and said, we now have telepathic control over drones, which is an interesting fact, is that, meaning that you can, with a helmet or a control device, control a drone with your mind.
That's some crazy shit.
Now, the new YF-22, the new stealth fighter that's coming out, actively has a swarm of drones that can be released to jam radar, all kinds of stuff. So it's interesting to see the fact that we now have telepathic control, because one of the things that Philip Corso told us about technology that was reverse engineered was the fact that the UFOs that they were reverse engineering were controlled via helmet. They were controlled via telepathy somehow.
Right.
They were controlled via user-ship interface that did not exist.
He got a crown. He got a lens. He got laser deal.
It's been interesting to see all of the technology come out. The Google Glass, of course, just things like heads-up displays in fighters to begin with. But to now know that it's all in their helmet, none of it need be on a heads-up display
and
anymore.
Philip Corso actually said when he encountered an alien that telepathically, it communicated with him when he saw it, and he asked it friend or foe, and it said neither.
Yeah.
It said neither.
Well, and
that could be it. And when you're talking about aliens and stuff, there could be good aliens, there could be bad aliens, and there could be indifferent aliens.
Well, and that's just it. Anybody that can transcend and bend space and time to be able to travel amongst the stars in a reasonable amount of time without genetically breeding yourself for generations to do so, we would be insignificant. Our technology would be insignificant.
We're still cavemen.
We're still playing with bottle rockets.
Yeah.
A lot of people think humans are aliens.
Oh, sure.
Right.
Sure. There's the whole concept of the fact that we were genetically bred to be here to mine minerals and mine rarities.
Somebody genetically modified the human race.
Mm-hmm.
They said, I think recently, that in our DNA, human DNA, there's something they found that just is unexplainable. Also the Rh negative blood and stuff like that.
Rh negative is definitely an interesting enigma.
Right.
We've yet to figure out what that little part in there is.
Yeah, they got what they call a lot of junk DNA, and they call it junk DNA because they don't know what it is, basically. That's why they call it junk.
I mean, we've yet to figure out exactly what it's used for, if anything at all. It seems to be next to useless.
Oh, it's junk.
But at the same time, it was just released not too long ago that data has been actively stored on DNA now. That is a possibility. You can store a copious amount of information on a strand of DNA.
Yep.
And of course, the work was done by Bell Labs way back in the 60s with the crystal skull, things like that, showing the fact that crystals can be used to store information as well.
Oh, yeah.
A la Superman,
Quartz.
things like that. So even considering a natural material that can be used, silicon, things like that. Whenever you consider the work of Philip Corso and what he said, we were reverse engineering, that, fiber optics came from that. Microwave came from that.
The bulletproof vest.
Well, I don't know about the bulletproof vest. Yeah. The bulletproof vest was right up there, along with PC.
Teflon
PCP, where it was almost an accidental discovery.
I see.
Amongst scientists playing with Teflon, other materials, things like that, and then they ended up being able to pull it into strands via a chemical process.
It was like a liquid, and
it was actually a female scientist.
Exactly, female took credit. Yeah,
a lot of our stuff, like carbon fiber. fiber, things like that, skunk works. Like Kenneth was saying earlier, Area 51, I fully believe the fact that it's mainly just a test facility for private contractors. Right. Hence all the signs and everything else. It's private land. Right. I really don't think the federal government has next to boo to do with it.
I think like I've watched a lot of people that came out, that either were there, workers, or, deathbed confessions and stuff, that people in the military, that Area 51 was the test facility. But I think the one place that was very close by that is different, but it's, within that same area, is S4. S4 is different from Area 51.
Okay, explain that.
Where that is where the alien aircrafts are at. That's where the looking glass and stuff like that is at. That's what people say. That's where the heavy artillery.
The looking glass being basically the equivalent of almost Stargate.
Right.
Where it's a mirror into another place.
Yes, and that's what a lot of the individual different people claim.
What do you make of that assessment, Kenneth?
Everything that I've done and research shows that the Central Intelligence Agency is the one behind Area 51, that there may be contractors there doing work for the Central Intelligence Agency, but it's controlled by the Central Intelligence Agency.
Oh, most definitely. It's skunk works, all those kind of things.
And I've questioned, I'm on LinkedIn as a UFO investigator, and I've had CIA agents come on and want to be my friend on LinkedIn, and I've gotten in some serious conversations with a couple of them over these exact issues. And to me, they're the group that's above all the other groups. You've got the NSA, you've got the National Reconnaissance Office, you've got, the Defense Intelligence Office, you got all these different Office of Special Investigation, Air Force. But I think that the Central Intelligence Agency is the overriding agency on this UFO stuff. That's what it appears to me to be.
I would tend to agree with that, mainly because the fact that during the time that it was happening, of course, you had OSI, things like that with the Army. But basically, the CIA was the bee's knees. That's all that they did was things like that. And they grew into the realm of using contractors for things like the U-2, for the SR-71, for later spy satellites.
They use contractors on a lot of that stuff.
It's interesting to me how the recent announcement that basically air shots, space shots will now be for sale to the highest bidder.
What?
To contractors. If you look at it, most of the actual shuttle missions that happened, they would go up and repair a satellite or launch a satellite, all kinds of things.
Right.
But you wouldn't hear anything about it. They were up on a scientific mission, things like that.
Right.
But quite a few of the missions that they had were classified DoD missions.
Right.
That's why their pilots don't come from the ranks of civilian rank.
I've heard now that SpaceX, Elon, has a government contract for our satellites now. The military wants
for launching.
Right. Huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, when I was in high school, I applied to the Central Intelligence Agency on how to get in. And they actually answered me with a letter in high school. And what they recommended you do is that you join the military and then you specialize in certain things within the military.
Yeah.
And
communications,
then
intelligence.
They hire you from the military.
Yeah.
The Central Intelligence Agency would.
Step one.
So they were directing me through the military.
Yeah.
And that was back in the 70s when the Vietnam War was going on. I had this thing I wanted to be work for the CIA. So I actually wrote them a letter and asked them how to do it.
It's interesting that since then they have now stepped into the realm of straight up recruiting and graduate programs. Even the announcement of the Future Force of a couple months ago, like I said at the top of the show. I mean, I sat and watched
Future Force.
I sat and watched the Pentagon press conference on the making of the Future Force, where they will be actively inserting military personnel into up to 500 to 1,000 military personnel, excuse me, into private industry as well as graduate programs here in Austin. Things like robotics, cyber warfare.
Didn't they just give the contract out to Austin to rebuild the new Pentagon up there?
Well, and that's what they're talking about. It's the Office of Future Warfare. It's
that's what they're going to build. They decided to build it in Austin.
Yeah,
Jesus.
Yeah, because of all of the tech companies, because of all of the graduate programs and robotics and all kinds of stuff.
Damn.
I know. Houston was in the running for it, but Austin got it.
Yeah, we have a lot more tech companies, and I think we're a lot more prone to that kind of insertion. Quite honestly, just being awesome.
Some insane shit right there.
But yeah, I mean, it wasn't even like by veil of darkness. It wasn't like done overnight. It wasn't a soft announcement.
I think we're desensitized.
They did a full, and it's not desensitized. That's an overused term.
Right.
It's the fact that we're normalized.
Right. Okay, normalized.
Much
normalized.
like the mayor of San Francisco about a month or so ago when she was like, there's more human feces than I've ever seen on the streets. And the only way that you can make that statement is at some point you got used to seeing a certain amount of human feces.
Yeah, right, yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Which means you got normalized to this condition. And we ourselves have been normalized to this condition. Right. We've been normalized to the condition of trusting the news when just all of the other day it went viral, the video of the dude in the hurricane in North Carolina fighting the wind like crazy, like bending the opposite direction that the wind's blowing. And then these two dudes just randomly mosey through the background. What's going on? Yeah, hey, what's happening? And this dude's like fighting for his life. It's like, no, they don't exaggerate.
They don't exaggerate. Nice.
They aren't trying to keep you tuned into a 24-hour news cycle at all. And it's funny how these lines are towed, these connections are made. Be it the military straight up using social media to do a live stream to announce something like the Future Force, be it soft articles coming out about the X-37B, the experimental unmanned space plane that just spent a year in orbit over our heads. Right. This stuff exists, and it's existed for a long time. Right. Whether you choose to believe in UFOs or not. Right. The fact is, these programs have existed for a very long time.
Well, Rice University is very interested in UFOs. Mm-hmm. Rice University, down here in Houston.
Yep.
Yeah, matter of fact, the Department of Religion at Rice University is the group that is very, very interested in UFOs. Yeah. And there's a Jeffrey Keipel, who is a Dr. Jeffrey Keipel, and he's a J. Newton Chair in Philosophy and Religious Thought. And he's in the religion department there at Rice, and they are trying to get Larry Bryant's collection, UFO collection, donated by Larry Bryant to Rice University to put into their, to start a collection, a UFO collection of documents, articles, all different kinds of things, because I don't know if you know who this Larry Bryant guy is, but he's a lawyer based out of Virginia that worked for a group called Citizens Against UFO Secrecy, which was a big UFO group like MUFON back in the 1980s, and they actually protested in front of the White House. Yeah. Larry Bryant, he would do the FOIA, FOIA.
Yep, Freedom of Information Act requests.
Exactly, to the Air Force, whoever, CIA. Yeah. He's done it for 30 years. He's a lawyer. He specializes in that. And he was the head of this group, one of the heads of this group. Anyway, he's old now. He's 82 years old. His health is failing. And I talked to him on the phone not too long ago. And he's going to donate his entire collection of all the papers and everything from this group, and also another group that was run by a guy named Peter Gersten, who was a lawyer up in New York City and was involved in another big UFO group, and they took the CIA to court and got a bunch of documents released and proves beyond a doubt that UFOs are real. And this goes all the way back to 1980, but it's been suppressed. And so now Rice University wants this collection because they're going to be doing research, they're going to be teaching, they're going to be doing all this stuff, and they're getting into it. And it's the religion department at Rice, which is the one that's going to take charge of this UFO stuff. From Larry Bryant and Peter Gersten, which were leaders of Citizens Against UFO Secrecy back in 1980s. No, what I did was I just decided I had to contact the who's who in the UFO world and question them, debrief them. So, I mean, I talked to Jan Herzon, like Tarzan Herzon, the head of MUFON. He's out in L.A. Lee Spiegel, who used to work for the Huffington Post, a big UFO guy. Larry Bryant, Peter Gersten's a friend of mine. Stephen Bassett, the head of another big UFO group.
And what is the consensus of all these people seem to be, Kenneth?
Stephen and his group cover up by the government. Peter Gersten, cover up by the government. Larry Bryant, cover up by the government. Jan Herzon, MUFON, cover up by the government. Every single one of these top dudes. Every single one of them. Okay? Including people like Nick Pope. And he can't speak on it because he signed a security oath that he couldn't. But he knows.
Yeah, he's one of the many people who can speak about many things.
I was going to say, he speaks a lot.
Yeah, but there's a lot he can't talk about.
Okay, so he can lead you to the water.
Yeah, because he signed a security oath.
Yeah.
Signed a security oath.
That's right.
And a lot of these big-time guys sign security oaths, and they can't speak about it until they expire. Okay?
Yeah.
So wouldn't he be taking a huge risk just doing what he's doing now?
Somewhat, but not a whole lot.
He's tiptoeing all around it.
Most of what
I think he's working both sides of the fence.
Oh, most definitely.
I think
but most of what he talks about, Rendlesham Forest, things like that, are already known cases. They're already cases that documents have been released.
One of those guys was a lieutenant commander of the base. I
think the Ministry of Defense is trying to kind of let some of this information out, and Nick Pope is the messenger. Okay?
Yeah. Right.
And it's officially okayed for him to do whatever he's doing.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. These are documents that have already been declassified, cases that they've already said, listen, we don't know what it is.
Right.
But it was there. Much like the CIA docs that came out that we talked about earlier, things like that, where it's
Nick Pope is a big ancient alien dude. You see him on the History Channel all the time.
Friday nights.
Okay, but he's no dummy. He used to work for the Ministry of Defense, UFO department. He knows exactly what's going on, but he's limited on what he can say.
Exactly.
Right.
So,
exactly.
And
Paul
but he
Hellier
wouldn't be going on ancient aliens and all this stuff if he wasn't trying to get some stuff out to the public.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. Like these people, you have next to no vested interest within the scientific community, anything like that, to be making these claims, to be making these statements, to be going there, even if you are a social anthropologist, cultural anthropologist like Giorgio Tsoukalos, stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
that talks about the cultural history of this stuff, but draws it from an academic point of view. You're walking a fine line, and you walk a real fine line as far as being discredited, as far as losing your career, losing tenure.
So what I'm hoping for is to work directly with Rice University and work on these documents.
Yeah.
Is what I'm hoping for.
Absolutely.
Yeah. that's what I hope to work directly with the religion department at Rice University with this UFO documents. If they can get hold of them, we can get them over there from Virginia.
Yeah, that would be an incredible addition and find for certain.
Yeah. I've been talking to Dr. Keipel about it. I've been talking to Larry Bryan about it on the phone, trying to work both ends down here in Houston and then up in Virginia.
And I think, as we said earlier, it really falls to not necessarily do UFOs exist. UFOs exist.
It's
They're
overwhelming.
there. We wouldn't have a term for something that doesn't exist.
Right.
The question is, what are they? What are their origins? What are we seeing? Why are we seeing different shapes?
Right.
Why are we seeing different heightened activity?
What is the interaction between the military and them?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
What is the interaction? Okay.
And
it has to be agreed upon those.
That's a big one, especially now that it's been utterly revealed that there is water on the moon. That was a huge announcement, and one of those that has always been, why would alien life stop there? It makes no sense. There's nothing to refuel with. Well, there's water. So yeah.
Did you notice those sedimentary rocks that they had on those pictures?
Yes.
With the rover up on the moon?
Yeah.
The only way those rocks could be laid down is by water.
Yeah.
Sediment.
So it was very interesting stuff to see how that announcement was just kind of made,
right,
and then put to the wayside.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I mean by soft disclosure, where it's things like that are like, wait a minute, this is fun. Number one, this is fundamental shaking in the world of astrophysics. This is a fundamental shaping or changing in the world of how we know our inner solar system was shaped, and how we know our Earth was shaped, and how we came to be.
Right.
So why was it just kind of glazed over?
Right.
Why are these things just kind of put out there and then meh?
Exactly.
Tossed aside.
Speaking of that, it reminds me of what was in the early 50s when all the UFOs were above the White House, and stuff like that. Yeah. It's like that was put into the newspapers and everything at the time, and it's like something that huge.
Even the battle for Los Angeles.
Yeah, something
where we actively fired on strange aircraft. We have no idea what they were.
Documented by thousands, and in key areas where it's like this is if anything violated this airspace, it needs to be,
Well, and that to me is much the realm of Kenneth Dudley here, and many other investigators who have to sift through these anecdotal stories, have to sift through the stories of mass sightings, like the huge one that happened here in Texas all of a couple years ago. Stephenville, exactly.
Yeah, Stephenville.
That was a
Stephenville.
huge one.
See, I went up there and questioned all those people up there, including the guy that had the UFO fly right over his house, and all that. And I told you what happened to him. Somebody called up on the phone and threatened him. He was a rancher.
Yeah.
And they threatened him on the phone, and they said, keep your mouth shut. Don't say anything. We got guns. And his response was, if you cross the cattle guard, you're dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a
Texan. That's a Texan cowboy for you right there, man.
Right there for you, man.
I was going to say you're
come on across the cattle guard, okay?
Yeah.
But no, he had a black helicopter right above his house, hovering right above his house. He had to put a spotlight on it, and he blinded the pilot of the helicopter, and he had to pull off his house. But he was threatened, and to me, that's another issue. I don't care who these people are in the government. I don't care if they work for the CIA, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, or whoever they are. You don't, in my book, you don't go around threatening United States citizens with death because you saw something and they don't want you to say anything, okay? Yeah. Screw them is what I say. The whole damn bunch of them.
That's obvious. They're hiding something at that point.
Well, most definitely. Not only that, but the fact of they are acting outside of the law at that point.
Above the law.
They are more than likely, as we said before, military contractors of some sort, belong to some shadow ops group, something like that responds to these scenarios.
They could knock you off easy, put some drugs in your house, and say you were taking psychotic meds.
Well, and it's interesting.
Well, I asked Colonel John Alexander, the ex-Vietnam veteran, the Green Beret dude, about it. He told me, he said it could be anybody.
Yeah,
it could be anybody.
Now he's pretty high
flying around
too.
with unmarked helicopters. Okay.
Yeah.
Black unmarked helicopters. It could be some weird group, any group. It could be, it could be a CIA, some special CIA black ops group for all I know,
If I'm not mistaken, Colonel Alexander was also part of or into the MK Ultra thing too. Am I right, Dudley?
Yeah, he was in, what was the name of that group? It was a bird name.
Oh, was it?
Well, anyway, Colonel John Alexander, have you ever seen that movie, The Guy That Stared at Goats and Men That Stared at Goats or whatever?
Yes.
Colonel John Alexander got into all that black ops shit right out of Nam, man.
Yeah. No, he was involved with Project Stargate.
He knows the guy. He knows the dude and all the dudes that did all that shit.
Yeah.
Because that's
all
kind
the
of shit he was
viewing
into.
program, everything else.
Remote viewing.
That's it.
ESP experiment.
Yeah.
Every kind of, and you don't think the military, they care about that, man. They're going to try every single thing they can figure out is what they're going to do.
And what you were thinking of earlier was Project Phoenix. That was the group that Colonel Alexander came out of.
See, I knew he was a part of all
Vietnam
these groups
era.
like this, and that's why I don't trust him as far as I can throw him. If anything, he's one of the ones that, Nick Pope, he's only allowed to say certain things, but at the same time, I'm not sure if he's fully for us. Even though he's retired.
Well, I think he's been spying on UFO groups for the last 40 years.
Infiltrating.
He goes to all these UFO things, okay? Yeah. All the UFO things I go to, he's there, okay? And he's doing probably the same thing I'm doing, but he's probably working for the government, and I'm investigating the government. That's the only question.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. The only part of the spectrum you share is the opposite
reports to the Washington, okay?
Yeah.
So, he's a double agent.
Well, and,
Well, I know John personally. I know John, and I like John because he's a true believer in UFOs. Okay, and anytime I can get a military guy to say UFOs are real, no question about it.
Right.
I'm a friend of theirs.
Right.
Okay?
Well, and that's what I'm saying.
But at the same time, I'm aware of everything that he's done and been involved in.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. The question of whether or not UFOs are real, I think most people, if polled, would probably come into the 85% yes category. Right. Whenever it comes down to what they are they experimental aircraft in the guise of, which I would not put past any government for using. So I mean, are they interdimensional? Right. Are they alien in nature? Are they man-made? I think we've got a good mix between them, and I really think that.
And that's why you investigate, and that's why you keep investigating. Okay.
Yeah.
You keep investigating. You keep asking questions. You keep pushing. Okay.
And what are some of the ways that you are actively investigating some of your cases right now? What are some of the buttons that you're pushing to get things moving?
Well, anytime you go into a congressman's office, okay, and you come into the office and you want to make some sort of a report, they have to fill out an official government document that said that you were there, why you were there, and what it was all about. So that's what I'm in the process of doing now. Is I'm going to go into all the congressmen's offices down here in Houston, and I'm going to file a report with each office about this UFO cover-up.
Nice, man. I like this.
And I want them to put their official stamp on it that I was there and that why I was there and what it was about. Because if the shit ever hits the fan, I'm going to be calling in all these people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no.
I'm going to say, Congressman so-and-so, yeah, I was in his office. I warned his ass.
And, you know,
I warned his ass.
It's funny to me that all of this stuff came about, Kenneth. I contacted you right up around the time of the contact who shall not be named.
Right.
Who basically told me, like I said, he will not come on to public shows anymore for not only fear of being discredited, even with the work he's doing in ufology and that investigation, but he's scared for his safety, his family's safety, and that the information that he has from trusted individuals on the inside is that either something of a large scale is coming, or that the plans of the appearance of something large scale coming are being made right now.
As long as people keep the pressure on, and don't let it die into a back page story and it kind of fades away.
Well, I guess what I'm getting at though is, what odds do you think it is that it might be some sort of governmental agency, some sort of agency putting things out there to appear as though it's alien, in order to achieve a means of control?
Yeah, I think they're doing all that. I think they're putting out disinformation, covering up some of their technology.
So you think as me that it's a combination of the two?
I think it's a combination of everything. Is what it is. It's not just one thing. It's do we have unidentified flying objects that we don't know about that our government has made? I'd say yes. Is there alien ships? I'd say yes.
Yes.
Have we somehow figured out how to down some of these alien ships to be able to recover them and reverse the technology? I would say yes. Have we killed aliens? I would say yes.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the most dangerous, aliens or humans? I'd say humans are the most dangerous at this point.
I would tend to agree with those assessments, especially with the humans being more dangerous. I think most civilizations that are apt technologically to be able to travel amongst the stars, to have the technology to be able to bend space-time, use it responsibly, would not be I would say of a truly combative nature. I would say that they're of a defensive nature. You start shooting at them, far be it for me to say, don't defend yourself.
Well, I don't have not one case confirmed of anyone ever dying from alien contact, except by getting too close to the ship and getting some kind of radiation poisoning or something
like the ladies
like that.
In the cash-landrum case.
Right, and I'm not saying that someone hasn't been kidnapped or hasn't been killed. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I haven't got proof of that.
Now, what do you think it will take to have proof? And that's something that I had to ask our Bigfoot expert and cryptozoology expert, and I have to ask it of you, being a UFO investigator. What do you think it will actively take for science to not just backpedal but accept an alien craft, a craft from outside of this world?
It will take a big investigation caused and everyone to be brought before the committees up in Washington, the NASA Committee, the Homeland Security Committee, the Intelligence Committee, and force people, government people, to come up there and testify. The National Reconnaissance Office, the Air Force, the Central Intelligence Agency. You would have to force these people to testify before Congress, before the committees, exactly what they know and what's
absolutely.
happening.
But
so, I mean, and no one's going to go along with that unless you push hard and you twist a lot of arms.
And that's what I'm saying, though. What would the catalyst be? Because, I mean, of course, we've brought the CIA to task, and that's one of the things I mention on this program all the time is, good God, name me a time out of the, I got at least, 8 fingers and a couple thumbs here. They're all there. At least that many times I know of that the CIA has been brought forth before investigative committees, things like that, within my lifetime, where they utterly did not tell the truth.
Right.
And that's come out later, that they went forth, said one thing, and years later it comes out it was something totally different. But we had to keep it there because of the guys in national security.
I was going to say national security.
But eventually it comes out. Eventually things happen, like Iran-Contra, things like that require, like there is a catalyst that's like, whoa, wait a minute.
Comes out how many years later?
What do you think the catalyst for those hearings would be?
It's going to take the news media to get involved in this thing and ask questions, okay? And unfortunately, the news media is controlled, I think last time I checked, by 7 different people.
Do you think it will take a mass invasion or a huge, like, mass daylight sighting? What do you think the catalyst would have to be for us to hold those hearings?
It could take another Phoenix Lights is what it could take.
Right.
Yeah.
The Phoenix Lights.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where you got a whole town of Phoenix, including the governor.
Yeah.
Looking up, seeing something, and calling the police
and as opposed to that,
the Air Force and everybody else.
As opposed to 1997, everybody has a camera in their hand now. I guarantee you, were something like that to happen again,
digital one at that,
it would be all over the place within seconds. It would be live,
right?
But they're kind of boxing themselves in here, I think. I mean, there's too much stuff coming out, okay?
Yeah.
And somebody's going to have to answer some tough questions here somewhere along the line. And,
that's where I say the concept of soft disclosure has been fully used.
See, I think like what you're saying about the softness is softening us up by, ancient aliens.
It's normalizing.
Ancient Aliens comes on a lot, and I hate to use this as an example, but it's something I enjoy and stuff like that. But a lot of people look at that and, that's it's an entertaining show, or whatever, and they think of it like, it's just entertainment, and stuff like that. Where I see it differently. But they think of it, it's just pure entertainment. This is
Well, what do you think about this new History Channel show called Blue Book that's supposed to be coming out? This new History Channel show called Blue Book.
I've been waiting to kind of check it out. I've been watching all the previews and advertisements. It seems interesting. I'd like to see how it plays out.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to see how it plays out because they just don't do a good job in Hollywood, unfortunately.
Right. Exactly.
On a lot of these issues. And they try to dramatize it too much. And besides that, they always take the bad alien viewpoint.
They do.
On a lot of this stuff.
They do. They always take.
And I'm not saying aliens are bad. I mean, aliens could be good for all I know, but all I know is that something is going on.
That's the normalization that we're being given, is that alien invasion, horrible things, horrible things.
You're using that word to describe it, which is a horrible word.
Yeah. Like just the concepts that were being sold by Hollywood, by television,
and
by movies,
maybe there
else.
is an alien race living on the bottom of the ocean somewhere, and we've known about them forever, and they've got technology far exceeding ours, so we kind of just left them alone and didn't bother them.
How
but
James
maybe
Cameron
now we've got the technology where we think we can conquer them like everybody else.
Yeah.
And so maybe we're going to.
It reminds me of my uncle. My uncle who was in Vietnam, he was in the Navy and on the ship, and he said he saw one out in the ocean, like nothing around. I mean, for, I guess, I don't know, hundreds of miles. Saw that sucker go straight down into the water, no splash, no sound, no nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of reports from Vietnam about that kind of stuff.
Yep. Yep.
They, and so at time of war is when all this stuff seems to get highlighted.
Yeah.
And come to the forefront. And that's what I was talking about, DEFCON 3.
Exactly.
And Yom Kippur and the war in the Middle East and the Cuban Missile Crisis and World War II, the dropping of bombs on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. They had a bunch of UFO reports right after that over there.
Yeah.
So, it's just, it seems like the humans, every time they get ready to blow up a bunch of stuff, all of a sudden these UFOs start showing up.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I think they would actually interfere. I think if it was that actual moment where it was actually launched, I don't really think.
Well, if it's an interdimensional,
mm-hmm.
if it's like Oppenheimer said, we've now become the destroyer of worlds, and it is interdimensional, and they know we're dangerous. Mm-hmm. We could be barking up the wrong tree. Here's all I got to say. Just leave the dudes alone, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Don't piss them off, whatever.
Yeah.
Sound advice from Kenneth Dudley. On that note, Kenneth, thank you so much for joining us this evening and taking the time out. Can't wait until the next episode where we have you on, talk about the latest and greatest news in the world of UFO investigation. Please do hold the line as we close out this episode of the Dudes and Beer podcast. Thanks again for being on, Ken.
Thanks,
hold
Ken.
the line. We'll be right back with you. While you are online checking out the Dudes and Beer podcast, please make sure to check out the Dudes and Beer Fantasy Football League. We do have the Fantasy Football podcast.
I think I'm winning.
Goes on Friday. It goes on Thursday mornings, just before, so you can check out the latest and greatest of fantasy football for the Thursday night games. Check us out on the HC Universal Network family of podcasts. And remember, if you can't be good, be good at it. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Dudes and Beer Podcast. To listen to our audio streams or chat with us live, download the official Dudes and Beer app for Android and iDevices, available on Google Play and iTunes markets. For more episodes, content, and information, visit us online at dudesandbeer.com. You can also find our episodes on Breach.tv, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast service. Dudes and Beer is a proud member of the HC Universal Network family of podcasts. For more about our sponsors and other podcasts on this network, visit hcuniversalnetwork.com. Thanks for listening, everybody, and until next time, drink responsibly.